Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode.
Is Mr. Deutsch on the call yet? David Deutsch?
Yeah, you
there
can.
He is.
I'm here.
How long you been skulking around behind the scenes then?
I've been lurking for a minute or two.
A minute or two, then you didn't get any of the knowledge or wisdom, which is okay because you have more than enough of that.
My head is already filled up with
Right.
I don't know if I call it knowledge and wisdom, but it's pretty filled.
Yeah, you got a full computer. Your hard drive is definitely full, right?
I either need a memory upgrade or I need to download some of this stuff.
You can offload it into another hard drive somewhere, and then
that would
put
be
it in a closet. Yeah.
Actually, I've been using Roam a little for that, which is kind of an interesting program. That
ROME?
ROAM.
ROAM.
It's an interrelational. Do you know Workflowy at all?
Yeah, I use Workflowy.
It's like Workflowy on steroids. It's like Workflowy, but you can connect things to each other. So let's say you're interviewing someone or you're writing about what you learned from interviewing, Russell Brunson or something, and you learned about Facebook. Well, that links to the Facebook page so that if you ever go to the Facebook page, not only will you see the note from Russell Brunson, you'll see the notes from anyone else that you tagged with that.
So it's a cross-reference with keywords.
Yes.
I mean, workflow is basically a keyword to find.
It's not exactly a keyword, but sort of.
Yeah, workflow is fairly simplistic, but it works.
Yeah, this adds a whole other dimension to workflow. It's amazing.
Neat. Well, anything that would help you get your mind in shape is probably worthwhile for anybody to consider.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, now that you've seen David Deutsch, that's David Deutsch in the flesh on Zoom. He's one of the best copywriters in the world, and he's also one of the most unassuming guys you'd ever want to meet. And yet, when you start getting into discussions about copy and marketing, he becomes very assuming. But he does it in a way that's that's a compliment, David. That he does it in a way that is always intelligent, always thoughtful. And as Bill K, we were talking about you at the beginning of the call just to tee you up a little bit. And Bill Cates was on the line. And he said, I said, what do you value most when working with David? And he said, David, you think David, you'll ask him something, or you're in a conversation about some copy or something, and you think that he's just like totally ignoring you, he's turning you off. And basically it's just the opposite. He's like, the wheels are turning and he is thinking, and then he comes out with, the gem of all gems. And then someone else chimed in who said, working with David is like, you start talking about something and he can rattle off the best headlines, not immediately, but with thought. And I know that you did this at Boardroom, with me, that you would think about, you would never give a quick answer when someone's talking about, coming up with a headline, coming up with a copy platform. And then once you started writing, you were as meticulous as anybody. I mean, it was painful to watch from my perspective, because every word had to be perfect, or at least perfect in your mind. And then after it was done, you would revise it again. And so that's the sign of a great copywriter, I think, that, done is better than perfect, but perfect and done is pretty good too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think some copywriters are a little less meticulous, like just work in a more improvisational way than, like, let's say Paris and I, who are very craftsman about it. Jim Rutz was very craftsman-like about it. Jim Puncrease, very craftsman-like, but I think it's all a matter of getting in touch with, the inner persuader inside you and writing from there, I think that's just the most important thing, is to be able to, people keep saying, oh, it's, how do I write? What are the techniques for writing? How do I write better? What are the templates? What are the formulas? But, it really comes down to, that one-on-one. Can I relate to this person? Do I know enough about this person? And can I really get deep within myself to be able to take my product and frame it in a way where it really relieves some pain point of theirs, or gives them something that they dream about at night?
So you're obviously a proponent of, writing to one person to represent the whole of an audience that you're writing to. How do you do that, especially now with, and it's changed over time because you've been doing this a long time. So I'm wondering, with all the whiz bang list segmentation software and everything that you can do to, tweak copy to certain segments of a list and all of that, how much has that changed? And does it still come down to writing to one person initially and then branching out?
Yeah, I think it still comes down to writing to one person. There's a lot of stuff on top of that you could think about in terms of how people have been affected by COVID and where they're at nowadays, and attention spans and things like that. But, even in ancient Greece, right? People did things for the same reasons we do things. They did things, and it's not, people, it's very easy to just latch on to like quick benefits. Like, oh, someone wants to, get healthy. I'm going to tell them how they can get healthy. They want to relieve their arthritis, right? Or they want to make money, right? Well, you could leave it there and you could write an okay promotion about lessening the pain or making more money. But people don't just want money. Money's just pieces of paper. It's just numbers on a bank account. They want something deeper. And to certain people, like BizOp or something like that, a lot of times they want to prove themselves, right? They want to show those people that said they would never amount to anything, that they've amounted to something. They want to be good providers for their family, right? They want to be seen as a good husband, right, father, or whatever. So
that's the will tell, won't tell, can't tell thing that I think from Claude Rapai. That
right.
Is, yeah.
Right. That's another way to look at it, is what are those things? And that's, I think the best writers, no matter how they work, just have a way of getting to that, yes. Like Dan Kennedy always had that. I don't know if I ever told this story, but I and it's not a story, it's kind of made up. But whenever I would talk to Dan Kennedy, I would say, you know, like, you know, whatever it was, people that want to lose weight. He would tell me all about people that want to lose weight, all the deep secrets, right, that he's learned. People that want to do this. And I swear, I could say to him, like, lion tamers. I'm doing a promotion to lion tamers. And he would say, well, I'll tell you the thing about lion tamers. The thing about lion tamers is when they stick their head in the lion's mouth, they really would like the lion to bite down and kill him, because then they'll be famous and they'll be the most famous lion tamer in the world. So if you know that about lion tamers, you could sell to lion tamers. And
that's great.
He always had those kinds of insights. And that's gold. Right? Like, forget about writing and perfecting your writing and things like that. It's that kind of insight into people that when you write like that, they feel you know them, and you can, they will relate to you and your product in an entirely different way.
I mean, I've always felt that, you know, working with you and all the writers that I've worked with, it's like, I feel like, I mean, I'm not gonna swell your head anymore, but that you know, you guys are like God to me. You know, it's like there's certain things that you do, you know, the alchemy that you perform that mortal men and women can't do. And so, but it came with I mean, you had to have something. I guess what I'm saying is there has to be a gene for it. But there also has to be a lot of training and a lot of, you know, sweat equity put in. And how much is it the gene of being a great copywriter, or the sweat equity of doing the work, and, you know, the hunger and the passion and the, you know, everything that you need to do to be that kind of writer? Do you have is there a percentage? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? I want to get it down to a science. Yeah.
Like lists, like 25.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an English major who likes numbers. Yeah.
You know, it's different for different people. Some people have a knack for writing, right? And some people have a knack for writing copy. A lot of times it's people who were salesmen to begin with, because they're used to selling to people, and somehow they're able to translate that into copy. Like Paris. Paris used to be a salesman, and he's just really good at, you know, selling through copy. But it's certainly learnable. You know, it's learnable in the sense that, you know, there are ways to get to the root of what people really want and what you need to know about them to communicate with them effectively. And there are ways to know how to put that into a selling piece, right? And how to put that into copy, right? There are patterns to look. I mean, even though I put down templates and formulas, right? There are things to go by. There are patterns in writing that you can look at. And this is what I show people to do, right? It's like, okay, look at this piece. See how he goes from problem to solution to, you know, whatever, right? Whatever that pattern is there. Here, look at all this proof, or look at how he alternates fact, proof, fact, proof. All those things are analyzable if you just have a little bit of knowledge of what to look for.
You were going to share something, the title of your presentation, what people need to do. So
stop writing and do this instead.
Yeah. So what? Now that's the tease. That's a good fascination. So deliver on that fascination.
Well, I think, we have been a little bit. We've been talking about all the things to do instead of writing, to really think deeply about your prospect and to really know, like, what keeps him up at night and what, like you said, the three things, right? What can tell, won't tell. What keeps them up at night, and what do they, what do they dream about when they finally go to sleep? And then to think about how to present what you want to tell them in an interesting way, right? That's so critical. You can think, when you can come up with an idea like why French women don't get fat for a market like weight loss, right? That comes from thinking, right? That doesn't come from sitting there going, oh, what should my headline be? And, what rules should I, that comes from an insight. That comes from, and sometimes it comes from just being still and not even thinking, right?
Right.
You
coined the phrase, which I give you credit for. It was like copywriting. It's not copywriting, it's copy thinking, you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's those kinds of things. It's going out and talking to people about a product, right? You learn so much if you're working for, a product, some kind of a product, and you go out and talk to people and you try to tell them what you would tell them in the copy when you write it. And you see they look bored or they ask you certain questions, and then you can incorporate answers to those questions in your copy. But sometimes it takes a while. It's like, this doesn't really interest people. Oh, they don't really understand this. I thought they would understand it when I said, that there's a connection between, your hormones and weight loss or something. I see I've got to explain it in a little more depth or something, whatever It is, don't just sit there and write. And because when people write, they get into this kind of writerly frame of mind, right? They're kind of like, they're writing a book report, and it takes on an academic sort of tone. And so they say things that they would never say to people if they were just sitting across from them like we are now and just talking to them.
So we got some questions, so I'm going to take some of those.
Okay.
Josh Monin.
Hey, David, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure. Hi, Josh.
Hi. So I've been a copywriter for 10 years, and I focus on financial copy and getting copywriters, always trying to get better at my craft. And now you got me thinking about, because my question was going to be what, writing practices do you recommend? And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm just starting to think, my question is, how do I become more effective at what I do? And, what practices have you implemented over the years that help you?
What's your biggest challenge right now in terms of writing? What do you feel?
I think the biggest challenge is just knowing I don't really know my market at a super deep level. I'm not a 55-year-old man who day trades all day. So I'm actually thinking, why don't I become a trader? Because I'm like, and I was wondering what you would think about that. Like, would it be good to become? I can't become older, but I could really immerse myself, and I do have a desire to learn how to trade and stuff like that. But I'm trying to figure out how to get even more into the mind of my prospect.
Yeah, I would trade, and I would trade with money.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot, but I would see what it feels like to lose money, and I would see what it feels like to hit the jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about that, you're talking about real stuff, right? And it's got the granular detail, right? You're not just saying, oh, it's so exciting when you get a lot of money, but you could say it's so exciting when you see on the screen that number in the right-hand corner, right under gains, click. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you'll have that,
get that adrenaline rush, and you'll be able to write to it from emotion, basically.
Right. And you'll have the emotion behind it, like how you want to go tell someone about it, maybe. Right. That feeling really of you just want to go tell someone, or whatever it is. It could be emotions that you haven't even thought that one might have when that happens.
I mean, that was one of the things that we would do at Boardroom, where not some of our copywriters, I don't know if you ever did this with us, David, but we all got on customer service calls and complaint calls, and we listened in to hearing a real person talking about your product or what you're offering. There's no replacement for that.
Yeah, I would spend a day in customer service.
Yes.
Get recordings.
Yes.
Of customer service calls. You'll be shocked, I think.
Yeah.
You'll be shocked.
And you'll come up with ideas too.
Because we think that people have a level of understanding that they don't have when it comes to investing. That's one of the main things you'll find is, wow. That's
why the Hemingway is a good use of software to help you with that, because and whenever I talk about that, I had a Facebook post about using smaller words. It was about, grammar is overrated from Gene Schwartz, but people were like slamming me on Facebook. It's like, oh, you don't want to write to a least common denominator. Why do you have to dumb everything down? Well, you know better than anybody, David. You have to dumb everything down because not going to say people are dumb, but because people, as you just said, people don't know as much as you think they know.
Well, that's true, but it's also that they're not paying as much attention as we like to think they are. We think they have nothing better to do than read our damn promo.
To read our promotion. Right?
Yeah, and they can't wait to get off, so they're not like concentrating on it with their full focus.
Yes. But, good point.
There's an exception to anything. I mean, as Ginger knows, Jim Rutz wrote to people's highest intelligence, but he wrote in a way that you could understand what he meant easily.
Yes.
Right. He used big words. He used big concepts, but it just went down so easily. It was just so, you couldn't stop, reading Jim's copy. It was fascinating. It came to life. It had drama. It had, he would talk about he would bring in history. He would bring in McDonald's. He would bring in,
Right. Yeah.
He wrote to the simple genius.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Right. He wrote to the simple genius in people. And
that made them feel good, which made them order. Nicole?
Nicole, hi.
How are you?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so David, I'm going to be doing some customer interviews for a new project that I'm working on. And we've talked a little bit about this in our conversation, but I was wondering if you could maybe take us through like how you actually approach interviews with customers. Like what do you ask, and you have a process?
Great question.
Some of that is I ask about their day, right? I want to know the context, right, of how they use a product. And I want to know the context of their life. I also want to know if they use the product, because you said they're customers, right? Yeah. Like, what was their process? What was their journey? Like they found out about it. They were skeptical. This convinced them. They tried it. When they tried it, this thing really convinced them that it worked. These were the results that they had over time. This is where they are now. Because that is a great thing to know about, because in your copy, you can then kind of take people on that journey, right?
Yeah.
You can help them understand, in a month, you should feel, in a week, you'll start to feel a tingle in your left leg, right? That's how you know it's working. In 2 weeks, you'll start to, all your belly fat will disappear. Right. And, in 3 weeks, you'll be out in your bikini at the beach, whatever it is. Right. You could take them through the journey that they'll have. So it's, and also, of course, it helps you to know how to convince people when you see how people got convinced. Mm-hmm. And when you hear what was what made you want to try it? What were your objections? What were you concerned about? So you'll see, was cost a factor? Was I didn't want it to have any bad ingredients in it. Was it a factor? Or was that not a factor? We like to think it is when we have a product with no bad stuff in it. But then sometimes you talk to people and they don't care,
Right.
It's so it's got no fillers, or it's got no this, or it's got no that, I guess that's nice. Or you find out they passionately care. I want to know that it's gluten-free and dairy-free, and I want to know that it's got no fillers, and I want to know that it's not made in China, and I want to know this, and I want to know that. I mean, that's stuff you got to know as a writer, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think, too, whether you're talking to customers or you're talking to a client, because client interviews are great, like people that actually sell the thing or have talked to customers, right, is to really push. Right? To really okay, but what's behind that? What's behind that? What's behind that? Right?
Yeah.
To get at their real, feelings. What else? What else? What else? Right? So many times I've talked to a client and there was nothing interesting that they had to say to me, right? I don't know. It was invented by some guy in a lab, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like this. And then it turns out, wait, there is some, like John Carlton with the one-legged golfer. Right? There's nothing interesting about this, right? It's not just some guy invented this golf thing, and so we're marketing it. Just go write the copy, John. So John's like, yeah, but what else? Like, who was it? Like, who invented it? What was the process? He's like, well, there was one weird thing. I don't know, something about the guy that invented it. He was watching this one-legged golfer golf. And so he learned something about how to hit the stroke in the right way because of the one-legged golfer, but that's not important. And John's like, that was like the whole basis for the best-selling, ad in golf ever. Right. Was the one-legged golfer.
And it was like it was a throwaway in a way in the interview.
And it was a throwaway, right.
But because you were going deeper and deeper. In fact, Chris Mason had put together, we did this breakthrough advertising boot camp, this 2-week boot camp, and Chris Mason put together a worksheet. What's the exact wording, Chris? It was like why? What was it?
The about desire.
Yeah, but it was about like the fill in the blank. So then what? Like what was?
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah. So it was you state like the top level, surface level desire. And then you start asking in the voice of the prospect, I have this desire so I can do what, or so I can become what. And then it's very similar to just asking why over and over. So you drill down into what they really have that desire for. Right.
And then you'll get like you maybe even when you get to the frustration point, that's when they're going to give you the gold, right? They're going to just say, they're going to say something offhand, and that's going to be the key to the entire, that'll be the keys to the kingdom right there.
Sometimes you want to do that sort of thing in your head too, right? You can't always go interview prospects, and you've got to be a bit of a method actor. Like, you got to get in someone's shoes. You got to be able to ask yourself, right? Okay, I want to make money in options. Why do I want to make money in options? Well, I guess I want to make money in options, so I'll have a big pile of money. Why do I want a big pile of money? Well, I don't know. I guess to buy some of the things that money can buy. Well, why do you want to buy those things? Well, some of the things I want to buy because I like them and they're nice to have, but I also I guess if I really think about it, I want to impress people, right? I want to be a big shot. I want to look good. Why do you want to look good? Well, it's important to me, right? And I also want to have money from, my family to be able to provide for them. Why do you want to do that? Well, because it makes me feel good about myself when I do that, right? Like, it makes me feel like I have a purpose in life when I'm taking care of my family, right? So you in your own head can get to this. And then in a way, when you're writing copy, it comes out as, and that means, right? You can make a lot of money. And that means you'll be able to provide for your family. And that means you'll be really happy because providing for your family is a really nice feeling.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Chris, when we do the, I don't know if you did this, I wasn't on all the calls, but in the boot camp, basically make sure that they use that exercise on both prospects and themselves. That's an important distinction, and you're going to get different things from both.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you can put yourself in the prospect's shoes, but it really takes a sort of, it's like embarrassing, right? It's like when you have to rehearse a presentation and you're not really giving the presentation and it just feels awkward.
Yeah.
It's like you really have to just sit quietly and just think about, what is it like to go through a day when you just lost your job and you don't have enough money and you're looking for some kind of second income? Or what is it like to have arthritis? What is it like for your wrists to hurt? And every time you go to turn a doorknob, oh, that hurts because I'm turning a doorknob. I'm unscrewing a jar. Oh, that hurts, right? Someone goes to shake hands with you. Ooh, that hurts, right? What is that like? Like, you could do that, but you have to really take the time to do it. And I know for myself, a lot of times I'm anxious to just write the damn copy and get it over with. But whenever I do take the time to do that, it makes writing the damn copy so much easier. Yeah. And quicker, because I now have things to really write about.
And then you don't have to be anxious about writing the copy. You can be eager about it.
Right.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you're interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.